Hi, on today's Bare Necessities, we're going to be making fluffy cinnamon rolls. So let's begin. What you're first going to do is take your warm water and mix a tablespoon of your sugar in. And remember, there's only a quarter cup in the whole thing. So mix a spoonful of, like a tablespoon of sugar, and then mix that in. Add your yeast and let it sit. Just forget it exists. After that, we're going to go ahead and start prepping the interior. This is one of those things that we can kind of dump it all together and just leave it in the lap of the gods. So let's do that. First, you have your 4.5 cups of flour. So after that, we are going to take 1 more tablespoon of the sugar. This is 3 tablespoons in here. I'm going to keep some of that in reserve for our cinnamon sugar and cardamom mix. That'll go on the inside. So we're going to add about a tablespoon more. We're going to then add our unsweetened applesauce, but our applesauce, and then our 1/4 teaspoon of salt, not sugar. Our 2 eggs. And we're going to let that start mixing slightly. We don't want it overmixed just yet because we have not added our yeast yet. And that's going to be the main bulk of our wet. And then we'll be right back. All right, now we're going to add our yeast, and then we're going to continue mixing. And at this point, we're going to want to start building the gluten structure. So we're going to let this go for about 5 to 8 minutes on low. So I'll see you back in a few minutes. All right, so that's been about 6 minutes. I didn't want it to go too long because I got what I wanted it to do. And I gathered up all the flour, as you'll see. Nice clean sides. And it got nice and tight, but still sticky. It bounces back whenever you press on it. If you ever have to do breads, just press on it. It will bounce back. When it's done that, it's processed enough. You've built up enough gluten for it. So I'm going to cover this in plastic wrap. A lot of people do tea towels, things like that. We're going to let it rise for half an hour. So 30 minutes, and after 30 minutes, we're going to take it out of wherever we keep it to grow, and we'll continue from there. So I'll see you back in just a moment. All right, so it's been half an hour. We've gone ahead and let the dough rest. I peeked in on it a little while ago, and it's almost double where it was. Okay, so first we're going to take a little bit of our flour and just spread on our very clean counter. Gonna put just a tiny bit more flour on the top to keep it from sticking too much, and then we're going to just press out as much of the air in it as possible. This is going to need to be about 20 inches by 10 to 12 inches. So it's a fairly large piece, but that's because we're going to try to get as many rolls as possible. Here we are. So we've got our dough rolled out. It's a decent thickness, about the thickness of a pound coin, slightly more. And what we're going to do is, with impeccably clean hands, we're going to take our 2 tablespoons of honey. So one of the ways that we're saving some calories and especially some fat here, we're still getting the carbs, don't worry about that, is by using honey instead of butter. So that's one of the ways that we kind of differ here from a standard cinnamon roll recipe, because it's going to get real messy. So you can use a spoon, you can use your hands. All right, honey is mixed. Let me rinse off my hands. All right. And now we're going to add our cinnamon sugar that has, remember, a little bit of cardamom in it, just because it adds such a nice, lovely flavor to baked goods. Right, and now we're going to take our 1/2 cup of dried fruit. Remember I said you can use raisins, I'm using craisins. And what we're gonna start doing is rolling this up. Here we are. So we have our little roll. I did scrunch it back up a little bit. It was somewhat too wide because we're only going to get 12 of these. I have a pie pan that I use for them. I've already lined it with butter, but using just regular cooking spray is fine. So we're going to start by cutting this about in half. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Do not break out a measuring tape. Going to continue cutting. We're just going to cut each one of those halves into half, and then each one of those sections into 3. All right, so we're going to go ahead and cover this back with a piece of plastic that we took off earlier, because why not reuse it? Let them rise for another half hour in a slightly warm oven, or just anywhere in your house if it's warm enough. After that 30 minutes, we'll come back and we'll finish these off. See you then. All right, so it's been another half hour, plus just a little bit longer. I started preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Remember that, again, I used whole wheat only, so they are a little bit heavier, which made the yeast have to work a little bit harder. So last week, these turned out about the same way. I've also made this recipe with just regular AP, and they would be up to here at this point, so another couple of centimeters, another inch or two. All right, so let's go ahead and pop these in the oven. They need to bake about 25 to 30 minutes, so let's go ahead and get them baking off. And once they are done baking for our set time, we will come back and I will talk about how we're going to finish them off. So we will be back in 23 to 27 is the longest I've ever done. So 27 minutes. I will see you then. All right, so the timer just went off on the bake. I did it about 23 minutes and I checked them just a minute ago and they are definitely ready to come out. So very happy with that. Here they are. Like I said, they were going to get just a little bit fluffier, but they are so nice and soft and a little bit bready. They do have a nice crust on the top though. Remember, my beloveds, you are loved, you are cherished, and you are in my heart. Bye.